Today on the Inside Scoop, Miami's five-star talent is on display. New Texas Longhorn predictions. Who is the best high school football team in Texas this year? And we'll talk about Auburn. They are off to a hot start, and there could be more to come. Now, here's what we're going to do. One thing before this season starts, you're going to hit subscribe because you've been watching all off-season long, and now the fun begins. The season is here. Hit subscribe. All right, we got a big show. Let's get to it. College football is back in 3 or 4 weeks, but high school football is here. We got kickoff weekend down in South Florida and really across the country. So we're talking here with E.J. Holland because we know the Canes are going to be well represented on the field on Friday nights. Which Miami commits are you most excited to see this season on the field?
Yeah, Josh, like you mentioned, kickoff classics this weekend. Super excited to be in South Florida, get a chance to watch some of the best high school football in America, if not the best high school football in America. So really excited to see the big kickoff classic this weekend, which is West Boca versus Carroll City. And that will feature five-star Miami wide receiver commit Nick Lanier, who's transferred from Miami Northwestern to Carroll City this offseason. Carroll City really boosted by a ton of major transfers. You also have top 100 edge Aiden Johnson coming in, joining this team. So, I think that this is going to be a great matchup. West Boca has a lot of talented underclassmen, a lot of guys committed to places across the country in the 27 class. 28 running back Terry L. Harmon. Really interested to see him. He's a guy with a Miami offer for next cycle. Miami went to West Boca, landed Javian Mallory last cycle. Terry O. Harmon could be up next. So, those are some guys I'll be keeping an eye on this Friday for that big kickoff classic. Obviously, Nick Lanier, he's one of the top wide receivers in the country. He can do it all, line up inside, outside. He's, a guy who runs elite level routes, strong hands, really great in the air ball winner as well. I think that's what really separates Nick. Did a great job of lowering his track times, runs below an 11 100 meter, which is always great to see. So I think Nick had a really strong offseason, doing a lot of different 7-on-7 events, both with his club teams and with Carroll City. And I think, again, this is going to be a really interesting matchup, especially, Josh, Florida's moving to the Open Division, yes, which takes the top 8 teams from the Max Preps rankings. And so Carroll City, they finished 6-5 last year. Obviously, that won't blow anybody away. But with Nick coming in, with Aiden Johnson coming in, with all these transfers coming in, they're number 2 in the Max Preps rankings, going up against, a traditional power here in West Boca. So that's the big one for this weekend. Moving forward, to next weekend, we have some other exciting matchups down in South Florida. I'll be back there to see Mandarin versus MacArthur. Huge one for Miami commits. You have Mandarin has a 3-star 2028 quarterback commit, Knox Annis, as well as 5-star wide receiver target Brysen Wright. On the flip side, for MacArthur, you have Sherrod Gourdine and Jalen Jones, 2 Miami defensive back commits. So that one's going to be loaded with Canes. I'll also have a chance to see a really nice matchup between Columbus and Southridge, which will feature Amir Sears, another high-profile transfer. We just talked about Nick Lanier. Amir Sears moving from West Broward out to Columbus. And, Columbus had a tough season last year, finished with a losing record, but, they're normally a program that has a proud history. So I think Amir Sears coming in will really give them a boost. He's one of the country's best two-way playmakers, ranked as the number 1 corner, should really be the number 1 athlete since he's a blue chip level wide receiver as well. So excited to see both Nick and Amir in their new colors and see some great high school action across South Florida over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. So that being said, we know there's a ton of talent out there playing, representing Miami at the high school level. Any Miami commits that you think could be competing for a state title this season?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how things shake out with Carroll City. I really love their staff, really love what they've done this offseason with the transfers. They're coming in with a lot of preseason hype. I know my guy, Andy, who does a lot of our high school insider coverage, he's not all in on the Carroll City train. But my guys out there, Coach Dirt and Coach Toro and Nick, and Aiden, like these guys, they've kind of revamped that roster. So I'm on the Carroll City hype train, man. I'm all aboard it. So we'll see how Carroll City does, here in the state of Florida. Elsewhere, Israel Abrams, Miami's top 100 quarterback commit in Illinois. This is a dude who's never lost a high school football game. He's coming off a state championship, obviously. Israel passed for more than 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns last year. I think he's in for a big, big senior season. And look, I think this is a cycle where quarterback one, the number one ranked quarterback in the country, it's wide open. It's changed. Obviously, you have Will Mensel up there. You have Trey Taylor up there. But I mean, I'm doing bold predictions this week for Miami commit. I'm going to say that Israel Abrams finishes as QB1. If you're really looking at what these guys do on Friday nights, there's nobody better than Israel Abrams. I mean, again, the dude has not lost a football game. He's a winner. He's a guy with an elite arm, playmaking ability in and around the pocket, just brings that swagger that you need at the position, that mentality, and again, just checks a lot of the boxes from a skill set standpoint. So it wouldn't be surprising to see Israel Abrams work his way into 5-star status and win that number one spot at the quarterback position, which, I talked to Charles Power recently, and he told me, it's really going to come down to how these guys perform this season. I think, nobody's going to have a better season than Israel Abrams. And you look at Miami's other quarterback commit, other elite quarterback commit, CJ Cypher, currently in the 2029 recruiting class, could reclassify to 2028, led Carrollton to a state title appearance in the state of Georgia last year, didn't win it this year. I think he will win it. He's, again, another guy who just checks a lot of boxes, really smooth operator, accurate at all levels of the field, was the MVP at the Under Armour Sevens event. And Carrollton, coming in at number 9 in the top 10 in the Rivals Composite high school rankings. There are big, big expectations for the Trojans, not just in the state of Georgia, but nationally. And CJ Cypher will be that guy commanding, that powerhouse down in the Peach State. So, really keeping an eye on Abrams and Cypher when it comes to state titles. I think Miami's QB commits can really rack up the hardware.
All right, let's wrap it up with this. We're talking all about these great 5 stars. Now, one that's not committed to Miami yet is 5-star wide receiver Brysen Wright, and there's a bit of news on him. I see he set 2 early season visits, one to UF, one to Texas. I'm sure there is more to come, but EJ, early on, is Miami in the driver's seat of this 5-star recruitment?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few, fans here and there. I don't want to say panic, but have a little bit of concern that Brysen didn't set a Miami visit to go along with those two. Brysen's very calculated in how he does things, and he takes things very slow. You didn't see him, make a ton of visits this offseason. The other thing is Miami doesn't really have, a big recruiting weekend in September. And, they're playing some Thursday games. They're playing a Friday game. They just, I don't think their first Saturday home game is until Central Michigan. And so, their big recruiting weekend is going to be October 17th against Florida State. So I wouldn't be surprised if Brysen Wright makes his way to that game. That list is already loaded with 5 stars, blue chip talent, elite commits. So again, I think if Miami's going to push him to come in for a game. They're going to get him on campus. I would suspect that it would probably be that weekend with the way things are lining up. It's just the schedule for Miami is so weird early on with these, off Saturday games. Yeah. I think right now, the initial question was if Miami's in the driver's seat. I would say Miami is in the pole position is probably how I would phrase it. I think they have the momentum going into the fall. Florida has done a nice job recruiting him, but obviously they have a new staff. They have a lot to prove on the field this year. I know Brysen's dad talked to Steve Wilfong about proof of concept. So that's going to be really big for Florida. Texas hosted him for a visit this offseason. They've impressed him. Texas has a lot of preseason hype going into the year as well. They've landed big time wide receivers too. So we'll see, how things progress if he really wants to leave the state. If he wants to stay in state, obviously, I think Miami has the edge, and just a lot to sell to him. You're talking about proof of concept. Miami had a true freshman become a star last year in Malachi Tony. They've landed elite talents, in the state, in their backyard. Amir Sears, Nick Lanier, Brysen Wright's very familiar with those guys. He could very well be the next superstar, in-state superstar to pick Miami. His quarterback commit, Knox Annis, is committed to Miami in the 2028 recruiting class. Miami is going to win on the field again. They should be competing and perhaps winning a national championship this year. I think Miami's just moving the needle for Brysen. He popped up, for a visit right before the dead period in June. Had a good chance to spend time, not just with the coaches, but commits in the 2027 class who are recruiting him. I talked to Nick Lanier a couple weeks ago, and he told me he's in Brysen's ear basically all the time. Really wants to team up with him and form that dynamic duo in Coral Gables. So I think the Hurricanes are checking all the boxes and setting the pace in this recruitment, and they should get a visit here, possibly in October.
All right, Cane fans, season's almost here, but the high school season is here. Talk to us about some of these Miami commitments playing on Friday night. Who are you most excited to see? Let us know in the comment section below. Let's talk Texas recruiting. The Longhorns trending for another top 10 class this cycle in 2027. You guys you saw recently Landon Williams-Callis committed. Probably not the last commitment in this cycle, but probably the last one for summer, so it's a good time to turn the page as Texas is pacing for a top 10 or even better class in 2028. We have Sam Spiegelman here with us. And Sam, you have some early Texas Longhorn predictions in for the 2028 class, so let's get right to it. And on the heels of Landon Williams-Callis committing in 2027, I see you've already made a prediction on a pair of top 100 prospects at the position. Tell us who at the running back position you are predicting to Texas.
Yeah, Texas has a fantastic 2027 haul. We just saw Landon Williams-Callis, a number 3 back in the country commit, joins Noah Roberts, another 4-star back in the class. And I believe that Texas is the leader in the clubhouse for Micah Rhodes, a top 100 prospect for 2028, the number 5 running back in the country, coming out of spring Klein Oak, coming off of sensational impact freshman and sophomore seasons out there. He has made a string of visits to Austin over the past 6 or 7 months, Josh, and that includes when he was still committed early on to the Oklahoma Sooners. We talked about first-year running backs coach Jabbar Jalouk a lot when we talked about Landon Williams-Callis' recruitment. Well, he's been able to create a very strong relationship with Micah Rhodes since he arrived in Austin. Again, he's visited half a dozen times since Coach Jalouk arrived on the 40 acres. This is already shaping up to be Texas versus Georgia for one of the best backs in the country. That's kind of become a theme for the best backs in the country, choosing between powerhouses in the SEC like Texas and Georgia. I think ultimately Micah Rhodes is someone who is going to stick in state and play for the Longhorns. He will be back on campus September 12th. Georgia, LSU, Ohio State, Oregon are all swinging their shots at Micah Rhodes, but it's going to be very difficult to beat the Longhorns for Rhodes. I think they've already carved out a significant lead, and it's a matter of time before I think he makes a decision again, and I like where Texas is standing.
All right, and that's not your only predictions on the offensive side of the ball. You made one at wide receiver and offensive tackle as well. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Peyton Smith is a top 100 prospect as well, one of the most prolific wide receivers in the state out of LaPorte High School. I think Texas is the early team to beat. A lot of schools that we just mentioned with Micah Rhodes, like LSU and Ohio State, are still keeping their foot on the gas with Peyton Smith. Yeah. He's also been to TCU and SMU and Oklahoma State, but that SEC offer from the Longhorns, back-to-back visits over the summer, including when he got his offer from potential position coach Chris Jackson. He will also be in town when Texas plays Ohio State next month. I think Texas has done a fantastic job recruiting Peyton Smith early on, and I like their chances. And I love their chances with Jai Storm Knight, one of their early offers. When you think about the University of Texas under Steve Sarkisian and offensive line coach Kyle Flood, big bodies on the offensive line. Jai Storm Knight is 6'8" and 340 plus pounds.
Jeez.
This guy is screaming Texas Longhorns eval, Josh. He's had an early offer. He's been to Texas ample times. He will also be in attendance for this blockbuster game in September. I think it's also a matter of time before Jai Storm Knight makes his way into Texas's 2028 class.
All right, I know you'll be dropping more predictions between now and by the time the season's over, but who are some big names early on that you might not have a prediction on, but you're getting close?
Yeah, on offense, let's stick with that offensive line theme. I think they're in a great spot for Jai Storm Knight, and I think they're one of two favorites for Armoni Edwards, another blue chip offensive tackle from the Houston area, visited in November for the last game of the season and has returned in the spring and the summer, starting to notice a theme with Armoni. I believe Texas is one of the front runners to keep Armoni Edwards inside the state. I also think they're one of the favorites for Kendrick Harris, the number 2 interior offensive lineman in the country from Duncanville, where they have recruited oh so well. When you look at their roster and you see a guy like Colin Simmons ready to rush the passer this year, you know Texas recruits Duncanville as well as any program in the state. I also believe that Texas is the leader in the clubhouse for CJ Whaley. He's a Rivals 300 athlete. He's a Texas Longhorns legacy. His father, Chris, played for the Longhorns and for the Cowboys. I think Texas is in a great spot with the blue chip edge rusher from East Texas. I think Texas is also the leader for linebacker Deshaun Simmons, a 4-star from San Antonio. Absolutely blew the staff away during summer camp in June. I think Texas has been setting the pace in Deshaun's recruitment ever since. I also think that Texas is the favorite for the number 2 safety in America, James Foster. He's from Lancaster, and he has been recruited by the Longhorns since he was an underclassman. He's someone else who's expected to be on the 40 acres on September 12th for that big game against the Buckeyes. SMU, Oklahoma, LSU all covet James Foster, but I think that they are all chasing the Longhorns for the elite safety who has very strong ties to the University of Texas so far in his recruitment.
Texas fans going to love to hear that, but you guys talk to me and Sam about this 2028 cycle. Who is your biggest priority? Who's your next commitment? Let us know. Comment section below. Football is back. We're talking high school football. We want to know who is the best team in the state of Texas. So we got Rivals high school expert Sam Spiegelman on with us today. Sam, let's get to it. You are in the state of Texas. Who do you think is going to be the best high school team, at least as we start the season here? Who's your number 1?
It's hard not to like the DeSoto Eagles. Of course, they are the defending champs. They also are loaded with a roster that really is coming off of not only one of the best runs in the state of Texas, but historically a 10-game winning streak to close the season against some elite competition, and the emergence of Sarad Baker, one of the best running backs in the country, heading to Texas Tech, but was nationally recruited. He went off in the playoffs and has completely reshaped the DeSoto offense going into his senior season. So they, of course, can run the ball. This is a Claude Mathis coach team at DeSoto. They're going to have explosives on offense. But what drives them to be the best in the state, possibly one of the best in the country, is that defense. You have another Texas Tech commit on defense in K. Adrian Redmond. You have Penn State cornerback commitment Dylan McGee, who transferred in to bolster the secondary. You also get another Power 4 defensive line prospect, King Thibodeau, coming in to enhance that defensive line, joins 2028 linebacker Lathan Adams. They can run the ball, they can create explosives, and they have an elite defense that just won a state championship, shut down one of the best offenses in the state, C.E. King, in the title game in Jerry's World. I think it goes without saying that DeSoto is in for another spectacular run this upcoming season, Josh.
All right. We talk so much on this channel about some of the blue chip players, the 5 stars, the 4 stars from the state of Texas. So who are some of the stars you're excited to see on Friday nights?
Well, I kind of hinted at it. I just named 2 Texas Tech commits, and we're going to see the future of the Big 12 in the state of Texas this year. We talked about Sarad Baker, one of the best running backs in the country. What else does Texas Tech have in this class that we're going to see? Kavian Bryant is an all-state selection at quarterback. He's one of the biggest play home run threats at any position in the country. He is the blue chipper, one of the faces of Texas Tech's class, can run, can pass, had a fantastic showing at the Elite 11 at multiple offseason events this year. He already holds the school record for single season yardage and touchdowns. He's going to bolster his history made as a senior this year. What about Jalen Brewster, another Big 12 Texas Tech bound defensive lineman? He should be in for another fantastic season. He plays for the best run defense in the state in Cedar Hill. Benny Easter and Julian Caldwell are two of the state's top receivers. They're both preseason all-state selections. For Rivals, they are two of the most productive speedster wide receivers. Julian Caldwell will go down as the best receiver in Argyle high school history when it's all said and done. And then defensively, guys like Jaden Nelson, who pound for pound is the best linebacker in the state, can play safety, linebacker, rush the passer. He should be very productive for Langham Creek. And Kyron Haywood had double-digit TFLs, double-digit sacks last year for the Denton Geyer defensive front. They have arguably the best defensive line in the entire state, maybe one of the best in the country. Kai Haywood, the Texas Tech commit, is a big part of that. And I know we mentioned Kavian Bryant, but Texas is littered with fantastic quarterbacks this cycle. In addition to Kavian Bryant, you have Luke Babin going to play for Baylor, Carson White going to play for Oklahoma State, and then going to the SEC, you have Ty Knutson, who just helped Smithson Valley to their second state title. He's going to play for Texas next year. Jerry Meyer, one of the most productive quarterbacks, Josh, in high school football history, just led Waxahachie to the quarterfinals last year. He's a South Carolina commit, hoping to bring the Waxahachie Indians even further this upcoming season. And I'll let you, I know I'm babbling on. Landon Williams-Callis is also one of the best players in Texas high school football history. 3,500 yards, 60 touchdowns as a junior, 7,500 yards, 125 touchdowns over the last 3 years. The program is only in its 5th year in existence. So he's going to break some more records as he competes to repeat as the Gatorade State Player of the Year.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about these guys all season long, a lot of viral clips, highlights. It's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you guys hit subscribe. Now, Sam, when it comes to the national championship, do you think DeSoto could compete for a national championship this year? And also, who are some other teams, maybe not national championship contenders from the state, but who are you excited to watch this season?
Yeah, I think it's very safe to say that DeSoto is going to be in the mix to be a national champion. I do think that they are going to be back in AT&T in December, and I think that whatever early season adversity those Eagles faced last year, they figured it out in a big way. And Claude Mathis is, of course, one of the best, most energetic X's and O's, leadership coaches in the country. So I expect DeSoto to be embracing the target on their back this year. And there's a few more teams I also think will be in the national championship conversation. North Shore held Duncanville, the state power, to 7 points as they won a state championship last year. North Shore returns a good chunk of their playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. They should be one of the best defenses in the country. Speaking of great defenses, how about those Duncanville Panthers? In the trenches, Duncanville is always stacked. That includes the offensive and defensive lines. This particular year, I think they're going to be a tough out, especially in the postseason, because they'll be able to run the ball, create explosives, and play great defense. South Lake Carroll has a new coach this year, but they have an elite offensive line, multiple Power 4 prospects. They have elite wide receivers. Some are going to Illinois, some are going to Cal. There's also a young receiver named Des Bryant Jr. that we are watching for the Carroll Dragons this year, and a young defensive lineman named Jason Maxiel Jr. that will play on their defensive side of the ball. They'll introduce Hudson Tomchek, who has lit up offseason activities as Southlake makes a run next year. And of course, North Crowley, they won't have the number one cornerback in the 2027 class. John Meredith is already on the 40 acres working out for the Longhorns, but probably the best secondary in the state with Braylon Cunningham, Jerry Outhouse, Elijah Juan Houston. They have prolific wide receivers like Demarion Mays. They have so much talent on that squad that's less than 2 years removed from winning a state championship. I wouldn't discount those Panthers from making another run as well.
Football is back. We are talking high school football, and we want to know in this video who the best team in the state of Georgia is this season. We got Rivals high school expert Chad Simmons on with us today. So, Chad, let's get to it. Who is, at least heading into the season, who is the best team in Georgia?
Man, you can make that case for multiple schools like every year, Josh. But how do you go against, a program like Buford, man, that just continues to win? Now, look, they don't have the star power at the top like they've had in other rosters in the past. But look, they came off a 15-0 season last year, another state championship. We know they know how to win.
Mm-hmm.
The staff stayed intact. The cohesiveness is there. They're going to play very good football. They don't beat themselves. They have a tough schedule again, but we expect when week 15 rolls around in the Benz in December, that Buford will be there again.
Yeah, absolutely. Pencil them in. Now, camp has started at the high school level and the college level, and you have been making the rounds. You've seen dozens of teams all around the Southeast, but we're talking Georgia in this video. So which of the stars, and there are many stars in the state, are you excited to see on Friday nights in the Peach State this cycle?
Is how things have changed in recruiting, Josh. It's all about now about, who's next, who's that next top
Right.
underclassman is this year talking about 28, 29, even 30 guys we're looking to see now in the fall. And look, we're only the second week of August, and I've already seen a guy like Landon G, 2029 offensive tackle, who I think will push for 5 stars from Milton High School. Of course, I'll see guys like DJ Jacobs, a 5-star edge going to Ohio State, KJ Green from Stevenson going to LSU. But I'll see Casey Barner in a week, a 2028 5-star from McEachern. I'll see 2029 D lineman Zaquan Rozier from small town in Butler, Georgia, Taylor County High School. So it's all about that who's next. Yes, we'll see the elite seniors, but it's all about those 28s, 29s, 30s. I'm excited to see in the coming months.
All right. So do you think the national champion could come out of Georgia this year? Is Buford that good?
I think anytime, a school, especially in that higher classification in Georgia, where I live, obviously I see them every year. Buford, Milton's been in that discussion. Thomas County Central, they've won 2 out of the last 3. They were 15-0 again last year as well. Some thought last year when the season ended, Thomas County Central was even better than Buford if they played head to head. So I do think if a team in Georgia goes 15-0, you have to consider them for the best in the country. They play tough competition, especially in that upper echelon of 5A, 6A football, region, playoff brackets. To win 15 games in this state and lose 0, you have to be considered. So yes, if a team like Buford, Thomas County Central, Gainesville, somebody like that goes 15-0, Carrollton, throw them in there. They have to be considered for that national championship.
All right. Now, maybe not a national champion, but who are some other teams through your travels that you are fired up to watch for this 2026 season? They might not be a national champion, but they are going to be fun to watch on the field.
Well, obviously you have to start with Carrollton. Joey King has had guys like in the past, like Trevor Lawrence. He's won state championships. He had Juju Lewis a couple of years ago. He's been at Carrollton, I think 4 years, and 3 out of 4 years he's played for the state championship. Just hasn't gotten over that finish line with Carrollton yet. With CJ Cipher, already 2029 quarterback committed to Miami, one of the top quarterbacks in the country. Carrollton will definitely be one to watch this fall. I think Gainesville have played for the state championship multiple times in recent years. New head coach, but talent still there. They're one of the most talented teams from top to bottom when talking starting 22, not just in Georgia, but maybe in the country, led by Clemson quarterback commit Kareem Hewley. I think a guy like a school like Thomas County Central, they've won 2 out of the last 3 state championships down there in South Georgia, 30 minutes from Tallahassee, Florida. Great coaching staff led by Justin Rogers. They lost some pieces from that team a year ago, but they're still led by a defensive lineman, Prince Chi, one of the top D linemen in the country. They'll be stingy on defense. They'll have a high-powered offense with running back Jordan McNeil and some other players in that backfield. So, look, you can talk about the main schools, Thomas County Central, Carrollton, Gainesville, throw Grayson in there. They're always a powerhouse here in Georgia. And, of course, Buford. It's going to be fun to watch how this season plays out in Georgia.
Chad, nobody knows the state of Georgia quite like you do, but now we want to hear from the recruiting fans themselves. Who do you put in the conversation for the best team in the state? Some exciting football, always great competition. Some of the best players come from Georgia, but who do you think will be the best team on the field in 2026? Let us know. Comment section below. We're talking Auburn because quarterbacks are starting to fly off the board when it comes to 2028. And Auburn got theirs over the weekend. Sam Solly out of Gadsden City, Alabama, committed to the Tigers. Chad Simmons here. We're going to break it down. Chad, how did Auburn win this recruitment, and how good is Solly?
I mean, I think it all started at home, Josh. He was wearing Auburn gear as a baby, kind of probably in diapers. And, mom went to school at Auburn, grew up a huge Auburn fan. I think that is where it started. But then you have quarterback coach Joe Gordon, head coach Alex Golish, both heavily involved in this recruitment. He went and camped at schools like Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, some others this summer. When Auburn offered him, that immediately put them at the top of the list. He gave other schools a chance to kind of, make their case why I should choose them. But in the end, look, he's got Auburn, that orange running through his blood. He loves the program. And I think how much time Golish spent with him, building that relationship, making him feel like a priority, I think in the end played a big factor as well.
Yeah, and now the foundation is set for this Auburn 2028 class. Off to a great start in 2027, already laying down the path for a top 10 class in 2028. So that being said, we know Sam Solly is from the state of Alabama. Who are some other in-state priorities for the Tigers?
Yeah, I mean, I think Sam obviously wants guys who are going to protect him on the offensive line and guys he can throw to make big plays at the skill position. So starting with Samuel Bailey, I think an elite offensive tackle in this 2028 class from Jemison High School up in Huntsville, Alabama. They're battling schools like Alabama, Ohio State, and some others, Florida. But I think Auburn is as high as anyone on his list. Talking about a couple of tight ends in his home state, Caleb Ballard, and then Lee Steele, Ballard from Wetumpka. Still from Orange Beach, and both those guys have great ball skills. Both have Auburn up there in their top groups early on as well. On the defensive side of the ball, Keone Snipes from Saraland, edge rusher guy, one of the top high school programs in the state down in that Mobile area. Auburn's been there 3 or 4 times. The staff's making him feel special. Then CJ Craig Parker from right there in Birmingham, one of the top programs in the state, Parker High School. He's a guy definitely to keep an eye on. Again, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Ohio State. So they're battling some big boys, and they're very much in play for those top guys in state.
Yeah, now speaking of battles, when Auburn is at their best, they're able to go into the state of Georgia and land some elite talent. How are they doing right now when it comes to Georgia in 2028?
Yeah, there's probably 2 or 3 guys I would say that Auburn's in that top group for the elite guys.
Right.
They're in play for other guys as well. But we've been talking about the best of the best in Georgia. You start with Casey Barner, an elite player who I think can go anywhere he wants to go in the country. I compare him to Caleb Downs 2.0, a great safety who'll play early in college. I think Auburn, again, in that top group where he hasn't narrowed anything down yet. But if you're talking about favorites, I think Auburn's one of those early on. Tyler Boyd out of Carrollton High School in Georgia. He's actually from the Hoover area in Alabama, still has family there in the state. Auburn is making him a high priority at the cornerback position. And then Zay Brinson, a big-time tight end, could push for the top tight end in the country from Stevenson High School in Stone Mountain, Georgia. He's been to Auburn in the past. Conversations have been strong with that staff. So I think Auburn's looking for that athletic tight end or two in this staff. We talked about Ballard still in-state. Brinson's one to watch in the state of Georgia as well.
All right, Chad, we hit Alabama, we hit Georgia. Any other prospects out there right now that you think Auburn's in good shape with?
Yeah, I think a hot name, being around the Auburn board this week alone is Tyzon Swan, one of the top defensive linemen in the country from up in Maryland. He's been to Auburn multiple times. He loves SEC football. There's been talk about, again, he's open, but I've heard Auburn, Alabama, Florida kind of setting the pace early. He loves. Again, he's from Maryland. Schools are going to make a push for him all over the country, but I think that's that national name to watch for Auburn. And looking into, I love to recruit Florida as well.
Yes.
I mean, look, the staff is from Tampa, Golish coached at USF, 2 players at Carrollwood Day right there in Tampa, Florida. Zylan Littles, a defensive lineman, 4-star, and then wide receiver Darrell Hines Jr., 4-star playmaker. There's more than just that connection to Tampa, Florida, but they also hired DeMarcus Van Dyke, and I think he's at the Auburn staff now, so that alone, he had his son at Carrollwood Day School as well, so they have multiple relationships there. So Swan, Hines, and Littles, 3 more to keep an eye on.
Auburn fans, you got your quarterback for 2028, Sam Solly. How you feeling about the foundation of this class? What do you think the ceiling is? Talk to us. Comment section below.